In this place I call my home, beer cans and my homework, and my backpack by the door. Somebody pick them up while I was walking through the cold. Amanda knew before I did. She always somehow knows. Found three things wrong. Her eyes fell on the door. I think she read the sign, found what she's looking for. But how do I explain this to my mom? College is a horror movie. I just play along. I'm not the final girl. I'm just here to have a good time. Laughing while the lights go out. Friday night and still alive. College is a horror movie. I just play along. Marty drew another map, 12 rooms, maybe more. Keeps a notebook full of things nobody has names for. Pip would have left this thing alone, yeah. But you know Pip, go on, press it. Drew got here first, an hour before the rest. Didn't say a single word, just watched us all instead. She clocked the wall, she clocked the door, she clocked the room when Drea's pen goes still. Everybody wakes up, you may be here for the glory, and that's not wrong. College is a horror movie. I'll just play along. I'm not the final girl. I'm just here, I've earned my spot tonight. Bright teeth gleam while the lights go out. Friday night and still alive. I'm not the final girl. Give me hope to win this thing tonight. Close my eyes as lights go out. Friday night and still alive. Chad dragged in a table, nobody asked, now it's ours. Doing push-ups while the building groans like nothing here is wrong. Funny thing, the louder Chad gets, the safer this place feels. When Chad goes quiet, that's when it gets real. December 23rd, 11:43. The quad is empty, the stairwell won't agree. There's somebody Marty won't talk about, but if we say her name, we might let her out. College is a horror movie. I just play along. College is a horror movie. College is a horror movie. I just play along. I'm not the final girl. I'm not the final girl. I just play along. College is a horror movie. I just play along. College is a horror movie. I just play along. College is a horror movie. See you Friday night. See you Friday night. See you Friday night. Baby, this place is haunted. Maybe that's what I want. See you Friday night.
The lockdown alert came through at 11:43 p.m., and by 11:47, everyone has read it approximately 11 times. University security, shelter in place. Do not use stairwells after midnight. This is not a drill. Nobody has said out loud what they think that means about the stairwells, but the alert is sitting in everyone's pocket like a hot coal, and the silence around that particular sentence has a texture to it, thick, shared, carefully maintained. The common lounge on the third floor is doing its level best to be the worst possible place to spend an unplanned night. The fluorescent lights overhead are doing that thing where they don't quite flicker but suggest, atmospherically, that flickering is on the table. In the corner, a Christmas tree that someone decorated in a fit of seasonal optimism and then clearly lost interest in lists slightly to the left, 2 of its string lights dead, the remaining ones casting a color that could generously be described as festive and accurately described as bile yellow. The window faces the quad. The quad is still. Has been still for a while now, actually. No wind in the branches, no late walkers, no campus security golf cart doing its rounds. Just the dark and the pavement and the particular quality of outdoor silence that shouldn't be that complete. You tried the main door to the stairwell about 20 minutes ago. Not locked, the handle turned fine. It simply did not open. Chad put his shoulder into it twice. Drea looked at the hinges with the focused neutrality of someone doing a professional assessment and said, which was somehow more unsettling than Chad's second attempt. Amanda asked if anyone had checked whether the building was, quote, physically still attached to the ground, and then went back to her phone when nobody left. The door is currently doing nothing, which is what it has continued to do. So, the lounge. Drea has claimed the armchair closest to the window and is facing it away from the quad. Amanda is on the couch with her legs up, scrolling through the university's emergency notification history with the focused disgust of someone doing opposition research. Chad is pacing a circuit between the vending machine and the TV. It's an 8-foot circuit, but he's committed to it. You are sitting cross-legged on the floor near the Christmas tree, very quiet, looking at the 2 dead bulbs with an expression no one can quite read. Marty is on the other couch. He has been sitting there, in the specific, boneless way that Marty sits, staring at the middle distance with the expression of someone receiving transmissions. Then he cracks his knuckles. It's theatrical, deliberate. He spreads his fingers, interlaces them, and produces a sequence of pops that somehow sound ceremonial in the buzzing quiet of the lounge. Everyone looks at him. Okay, he says. He pauses. The pause goes long enough that Chad opens his mouth. Marty holds up one finger without looking at him. Chad closes his mouth. So, Marty says, we're stuck. It's almost midnight. The university has, for reasons we are not going to examine too closely right now, strong feelings about the stairwells. He nods toward everyone's pockets, toward the alerts sitting in all of them. And I think I have the perfect story for a night like this. Obviously, this is going to be terrible. It happened in this dorm, Marty says, like she hadn't spoken. 3rd floor, actually. 3 years ago. There was a girl. He pauses again. His face is doing something neutral and attentive, like he's trying to remember. 4th floor. Girl on the 4th floor. What was her name, you ask? You say it quietly, still looking at the dead Christmas lights. I don't remember her name, he says. And then, in the specific tone of someone stating a fact they find mildly interesting, I think that's kind of the point. The fluorescent light flickers, once, fast, not quite deniable, and the lounge settles back into its buzz. Outside the window, the quad continues to be completely, perfectly still. Your thumb hovers over the message longer than it should. Dana, Jake, Derek, Lisa, Tiffany. You type it plain, no punctuation flourish, because there isn't time for flourish. Get to the 3rd floor lounge now. Do not stay alone. The little spinning wheel appears where the send arrow should be. It spins. It keeps spinning. Somewhere in the building, or outside it, or somewhere that isn't really a place at all, something is chewing on the signal before it can leave the room. Service is garbage tonight, says, not looking up from his own phone, which has been showing one bar for the last 20 minutes, the bar itself looking apologetic about it. Classic Dead Zone horror movie stuff. That's how you know it's serious, when the Wi-Fi password stops working before the killer shows up. You don't answer him. You watch the wheel spin. 4 seconds. 6. Your chest does something tight and small, and you think, with a clarity that surprises you, about how Dana sleeps with her door propped for airflow, about the utility closet down the hall from Jake's room, about Tiffany's habit of walking to the vending machines alone at midnight because she says the caffeine hits different that late. You try to do the same for Derek, for Lisa, and can't. Can't picture where they'd be right now, what their rooms even look like anymore, and the blankness where their names should sit feels worse than any specific image would have. The wheel stops. Delivered. Not read. Not yet. But delivered, which means it got out, which means whatever is thickening the air in this lounge, whatever is holding the stairwell door shut like a fist, doesn't have a lock on every wire in the building. Not all of them. Not this one. Not this time. "Who are you texting?" asks, arms crossed, the particular tilt of her head that means she already suspects the answer and wants to hear you say it anyway. "Everyone," you say. "Told them to come here, not to be alone." Drea's expression shifts. Not surprise, something closer to recalibration, like she's rerunning a threat assessment with new information dropped in, the same clinical patience she'd given the door hinges 20 minutes ago. "That's the right call," she says, quiet, and it costs her something to say it that plainly. "Whatever's out there, it's not going to want witnesses in groups."
Marty, from the couch, doesn't look up from the carpet he's been studying like a text. "Okay, but," he says, and there's a pause long enough that you almost think he's done. "You should probably tell them not to use the stairs either. Because that's the part they'll skip. Everybody skips that part."
Nobody quite responds to that. The lounge holds it anyway, the way a room holds a smell after someone's already left. Outside, the quad is still. Your phone sits face up on the armrest, screen dark now, message delivered and unread, and you find yourself watching the door to the hallway the way you'd watch a pot that hasn't started boiling yet, but will. You hold the door with your shoulder and call them in by name, because it feels like something you can control when nothing else is.
"Dana," you say, and she slides past you into the lounge, breathing hard, hair static charged from running the stairwell. "Jake." He comes in behind her, already checking the deadbolt on the far window like that'll do anything. "Derek." He half falls through the gap, catches himself on the arm of the couch, laughing the wrong kind of laugh people laugh when they're not okay. "Lisa." She's the calm one, always has been, and she walks in steady, scanning the room like she's counting exits.
You look down the hall for the last one. The fluorescent tube above the stairwell door is doing its stutter flicker thing, and in the wash and dark of it you see her, Tiffany, 20 feet off, moving fast, backpack strap slipping off one shoulder.
"Tiffany," you call, the way you called the others, an anchor thrown down a well, and that's the mistake. That's the whole and entire mistake, because the thing about a name is that it's a hook, and you just baited it into the air with hers.
The flicker stutters once more and doesn't come back up. Not off. Gone. The bulb itself absent from its socket, like the dark reached up and unscrewed it. In the black where the hallway used to be, something straightens up behind Tiffany. Taller than the ceiling should allow it to be without folding. And Tiffany doesn't scream, doesn't have time to. Because whatever it is doesn't reach for her so much as arrive at her, closing the last 15 feet in a way that isn't quite running and isn't quite not there, and then simply here. You see her face for half a second, lit from below by the exit sign's dying red, mouth open on the shape of a word she never gets to finish. Then the thing's arm, if arm is even the word, if the word for it exists in a language people still speak, goes through her sternum the way a hand goes through water, no resistance, no bone in the way, out the other side wet to the shoulder. There isn't a sound like you'd expect. No crack, no tear, just a soft, terrible give, like a peach yielding to a thumb, and Tiffany folds around the limb buried in her the way a coat folds over a hanger. Blood comes a half-second late, arterial, black-looking in the red light, patterning the ceiling tile above her in a spray that's already dripping back down onto her upturned face before she's finished falling. Her legs are still walking. Her body doesn't seem to have caught up with the fact that it's dying. 2 more shuffling steps toward the doorway, toward the sound of her own name still hanging in the air where you left it, before the thing withdraws its arm in a long, wet drag and she drops the rest of the way to the tile, folding at the knees, at the waist, coming to rest half in the hallway and half over the threshold you were holding open for her. The door is still under your shoulder. The one thing tonight you'd actually managed to hold on to, and it hadn't mattered at all. Your hand is still raised from where you'd started to reach for her. In the dark past the dead bulb, the tall shape is already gone. Not retreated, not fled, just absent, the way the light was absent, as if it had only ever been a shape borrowed from the hallway for exactly as long as it needed. Nobody in the lounge says her name again. The silence taking on that same thick, careful texture the alert had 20 minutes and a lifetime ago. The hall phone is a relic nobody uses. Beige, coiled cord, bolted to the wall by the vending machine, like the building forgot it could be removed. You pick it up, expecting a dial tone, and nothing else. Instead, there's a click, a breath, and Janitor Earl's voice, gravel flat, like you didn't interrupt anything because nothing about tonight surprises him. "3rd floor," he says, not a question. "There's," you start, and he cuts you off, not unkindly. "I know. Don't say her name again. Not tonight, not in that hallway. You already learned that one the hard way. Names carry in this building. You throw one out into the dark, something's going to catch it." A pause, keys jingling somewhere on his end, metal on metal. "Stay where the light's still working. I'm coming up the east stairwell, not the one by you. Don't unbolt anything till you hear 3 knocks, then a 4th. He hangs up before you can ask how he knows which stairwell is bad. You set the phone back in its cradle like it might bite, and your thumb is already moving on your own phone. Jules, Brad, Kurt, Cassandra. 4 names, 1 message each, the same 6 words. Lounge, now, don't ask, don't stop. The texts leave in a row of gray bubbles. You watch them turn blue one at a time, delivered, 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 delivered. And something in your chest unclenches half an inch. The same tight, small thing that had knotted there 20 minutes ago, easing now, not gone, just loosened enough to breathe around. "Calling for backup. Okay, I respect it. That's a classic 3rd act move, actually, gathering the survivors in one..." He stops himself, glances at the threshold where nobody's looking anymore, and doesn't finish the sentence. "It's not a movie, Chad," says, but there's no heat in it. She's staring at her own phone, thumb hovering. "If people are coming through that door in the next 10 minutes, I want it so nobody's standing where..." She doesn't finish that either, but everyone knows where she means. Marty's been quiet through all of it, sitting cross-legged on the floor with his phone dark in his lap, eyes fixed somewhere past the coffee table. That same middle-distance stare he'd had on the couch earlier, like he was still listening to something only he could hear.
"Okay, but..."
He says, to no one, to the room.
"You know Earl's not going to bring them here. He's going to bring them near here. That's not the same door."
Nobody answers him. It's the kind of thing that doesn't have a place to land, so it just sits in the air until the next thing happens. You find yourself replaying it anyway, turning it over, the way you've been turning over things all night that shouldn't make this much sense this fast. 4 bubbles, blue. Somewhere in the building, 4 phones just lit up in the dark. The lounge door bangs open and they come in loud, the way scared people come in loud, like volume is armor. Earl, Jules, Brad, Kurt. Cassandra, someone calls, doing a head count, doing the thing you do when you need the world to hold still and be countable. 5 names in a row, spoken into a room where a girl died twice. The overhead fluorescents don't answer. Only the one dead-end lamp by the vending machine still works, throwing a cone of jaundiced light that doesn't reach the couches. Kurt has his phone out, thumb already sliding to the flashlight app, and for a second, just a second, the beam catches Drea's repositioned couch, the dark gap behind it, and something that is not a shadow, because shadows don't have a shape that thinks about you. Cassandra's not answering, still counting, still saying names like a ward that isn't working. Cassandra! Hey, Cass! The lamp by the vending machine gutters out. Not flickers. Out. The filament popping with a sound like a knuckle cracking. In the half-second before Kurt's flashlight app finishes loading, the room goes the kind of dark that has weight to it, and something crosses the space between the couch and the doorway without the floor making a single sound. Kurt's screen lights up a heartbeat too late. The beam swings up and catches her. Not a face, never a face, just an impression of a girl shape, wearing the room's darkness like a coat, close enough that the light should have blinded her, and doesn't. And then her hand is already inside his open mouth. Not around it, inside it. Fingers hook past his teeth and down, and Kurt makes a sound that starts as a scream and ends as nothing, because the thing doesn't stop at his throat. She drags upward and back in the same motion a person uses to turn a page, and Kurt's jaw separates from the rest of his skull with a wet, tearing crack. Cartilage and muscle stringing between the two halves, like she's peeling a fruit that was never meant to come apart this way. His flashlight app is still running when the phone hits the carpet, screen up, lighting the underside of what's left of him from below. The ruin of his lower face, the dark that pours out of the new gap where his throat used to connect to anything. He doesn't fall so much as fold, knees first, and by the time his body settles against the couch, the shape that did it is already gone, folded back into the space behind the furniture like it was never given a name at all, which, Earl told you, is the one thing you're supposed to make sure of. Nobody is counting anymore. Cassandra is screaming without sound, both hands clamped over her own mouth like she's trying to hold her next word inside her body by force. Jules has gone rigid against the wall. Brad's flashlight, when he finally gets it lit, finds Kurt's phone still glowing on the carpet, and the shape of him next to it, and nothing else in the dark that will let itself be seen. You go down first, slow, deliberate, every joint moving like the air itself might crack if you rushed it, and the rest follow half a second behind. Chad's mouth already open on some third-act one-liner that dies in his throat before Drea's hand closes over his wrist and drags him flat. Amanda folds herself into the gap between couch and radiator without a sound, knees to chest, phone screen already smothered against her sternum so the glow doesn't give her away.
Marty goes down last, unhurried, like he'd been expecting to do this for an hour and was only waiting for someone else to start.
Across the room, Kurt is still screaming around the hand in his mouth, and then he isn't, and the wet, tearing quiet that replaces it is somehow louder than the scream was. Someone, Earl maybe, you can't tell anymore whose voice belongs to whom, makes a sound like a hinge, and then stops making any sound at all. Footsteps that aren't footsteps cross the carpet. You feel it more than hear it. A pressure change, like a door opening into a colder room. Your heart is doing something arrhythmic and enormous in your chest, and you don't decide, you just know, that the only thing keeping any of you alive right now is how still you can make your own lungs. You breathe through your mouth in increments so small they barely count as breathing. Beside you, Amanda has gone the color of the couch fabric, her usual running commentary, the sarcasm, the eye-rolling disbelief, nowhere in her now. Like fear finally found the one thing she couldn't talk her way around. Drea's eyes are open, tracking the ceiling, cataloging the sound the way she catalogs everything, filing it under things I will deal with once I am not about to die. The girl shape passes the gap in the couches. You see it the way you see a solar eclipse, sideways, in peripheral fragments, because looking straight at it feels like it would notice you noticing. It pauses. Just past your knee, close enough that you could reach out and touch the cold coming off it, and for 3 full seconds, nothing in the room moves, including time. Then it keeps going, unhurried. Toward the door Kurt came in through, dragging something behind it that used to argue about head counts. The silence afterward has a texture to it, thick and gelatin slow, and it takes a long time for anyone behind the couches to remember how to unclench.
Marty is the first to move, and even then it's only his eyes, sliding toward you with an expression that isn't fear so much as confirmation. Okay, he says, so quiet it's barely air. So that's the part I was trying to tell you about earlier. The name thing. She doesn't forget it once it's out.
Nobody answers him. Somewhere near the vending machine, the dead lamp does not come back on, and the room stays the kind of dark that remembers you were almost found. And somewhere upstairs, in a room that's been empty since October, a single, handwritten line waits on a water-stained page for someone to finally need it. Don't say her name. You count under your breath, lips barely parting, the words shaped more than spoken. Dana, Jake, Derek, Lisa, Earl, Jules, Brad, Cassandra. Only one of those names belongs to anyone in this room. Earl is right there, 3 feet away, stocky and stubbled and reeking faintly of the maintenance closet, keyring silent for once because he's got his fist wrapped around it to keep it from jangling. The other 7 don't correspond to a single person crouched behind these couches. You don't know a Dana. You've never met a Jules. But you know them anyway, the way you know your own pulse, factually, immediately, sourceless. A girl who watches doorways instead of faces 2 floors up. A groundskeeper's kid pressed into a stairwell. A name attached to a face you have never seen attached to a body you cannot currently locate. The knowing arrives whole, and you let it sit in your mouth without deciding to say it, and it comes out anyway. A head count for a building, not a room. The pressure shape crosses the carpet again, closer this time, dragging that colder room feeling like a held door. The air changes half a beat before Amanda's hand finds your wrist and grips it. Not to stop you, just to have something to hold on to. Your counting has gone silent now, air moving over teeth and nothing else, and that turns out to be exactly the volume the room can survive. The shape pauses by the second couch, tilts. You feel the tilt more than see it, and then keeps moving, unhurried, toward the hallway, the way something moves when it has already checked a square floor and found it wanting. It didn't count you as here. Somehow, that held. Earl's breath goes ragged and silent with relief he can't afford to make audible, keyring still white-knuckled in his fist. Drea's eyes cut sideways to you for exactly 1 second. Not suspicion yet, something closer to filing evidence for later, before returning to the ceiling, tracking the retreat. Marty's mouth moves like he's about to ask who Dana is, or Jules, or why you said 7 names that don't belong to anyone he can see. And then he doesn't ask. He just watches you, the way you'd watch a forecast that had already come true once tonight. The footsteps that aren't recede toward the stairwell, toward whatever door on this floor still has something behind it. The lounge exhales in stages, nobody willing to go first. You keep your eyes on the dark where it went and understand, without deciding to understand it, that the count wasn't finished. That somewhere above or below this room, 7 people you have never met are being checked off a list only you are keeping. And that the list is not done getting shorter. You stand up. Amanda's hand slides off your wrist, fingers grasping at nothing, and her whisper, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" arrives half a second too late to stop you, because you are already moving into the open carpet where the light from the dead TV doesn't reach. Earl's voice from the hall phone trailing a beat behind you and too far away to matter now. Don't say her name again. Already closing your fist, already bringing it down on the side of the vending machine hard enough to rattle the cans inside like a dropped drawer of silverware. The bang is enormous in the held breath quiet of the lounge. It is the loudest thing that has happened tonight. Louder, even, than the quiet, careful list you'd been keeping in your head since the couches. The one that wasn't getting any shorter on its own. "Dana!" you scream, and your voice cracks on it, raw and too big for the room. "Jake! Derek! Lisa!" You slam the machine again, both fists now. "Earl! Jules! Brad! Cassandra! Come on! Come and get one!" Drea's hand claps over her own mouth. Chad has gone the color of the vending machine's plastic. Marty says your name, just your name, small, like he's trying to talk you down off something. And Earl's keyring finally slips from his sweat-slick fist and hits the carpet with a sound like a wind chime made of teeth. The temperature doesn't drop this time. It falls, all at once. The way a floor gives way, and the pressure shape that was drifting unhurried toward the hallway stops. It turns around. You feel it turn around the way you'd feel a hand close around the back of your neck. Not seen, felt, a directionality imposed on the dark itself. And it is coming back across the carpet now without any pretense of searching, because you have just done the one thing that ends the search. You said the names. You said them loud, in the dark, in the place where it has been. A name is a state. States are exclusive. You don't get to finish deciding you made a mistake. There isn't time for the thought to complete. The air in front of you folds. That's the only word your mind has room for. Folds. Like a curtain being drawn from both sides at once, and something reaches through the fold that has fingers only in the sense that a wound has edges. It does not grab you. It arrives at you, all of it, all at once, the way water arrives at the bottom of a drop. Your scream gets exactly one syllable into existence before your throat isn't shaped like a throat anymore. There is a sound, wet, structural, the sound of something built by evolution over 400 million years being unbuilt in under 2 seconds. And you go down with your jaw at an angle jaws don't reach, and a dark stain unspooling across the carpet far faster than blood should move, like it's being pulled rather than spilled. One of your eyes is still open. It is not looking at anything because there is no longer a coordinated system behind it to do the looking. The vending machine hums on, indifferent, its cans settling one by one into silence. Nobody screams. Screaming, you have just demonstrated, is not survivable. Amanda's mouth is open around a sound she is physically forcing herself not to make, tears running freely and silently down her face. Marty has both hands pressed so hard against his own lips that his knuckles have gone white. Drea has stopped breathing altogether, her whole body a held note, though even now some small, clinical part of her keeps counting the seconds anyway. The pressure shape lingers over what's left of you for 3 long seconds. A held door, a colder room, a satisfaction with no face to wear it on. And then it drifts back toward the hallway, unhurried, the way something moves when it has finally found what it was counting for. It got its name after all. It just wasn't one of the 8 you meant. You don't say her name. You don't say any name. You put your finger to your lips, and Amanda understands first. She always understands first. And reaches for Drea's hand, and Drea reaches for Marty's, and Marty, shaking so hard his teeth click, reaches for Earl. And Earl, God help him, reaches for Chad. And the circle closes around the space where you used to be standing, around the wet, dark stain already soaking into the carpet where you fell. Nobody breathes above a whisper. The girl shape has not moved. She is still there, hanging in the ruined light near the vending machine, facing the place your voice came from a minute ago. Patient in the way that only something with no clock in its chest can be patient. The 5 of them hold on, hands laced so tight the knuckles go white. This is the plan. No names, no sound. Ride out the dark until morning finds a reason to make it stop being true. It almost works. Chad's breathing goes first, shallow, then hitching, then a wet catch in his throat that he tries to swallow and can't, because his eyes have found the stain on the carpet and his brain has finally, fully arrived at what it means, and the sound that comes out of him is small and broken and shaped against every ounce of what's left of his self-control, like the beginning of a word. Not a scream, worse than a scream, a whisper, helpless, almost tender. He doesn't finish it. He doesn't need to. The temperature does that falling floor thing again, all at once, and Earl's hand crushes down on his in warning half a second too late, and Marty's mouth opens on a silent no that goes nowhere, because the girl shape is already gone from where she was and already here, closing the 8 feet of ruined carpet between one blink and the next without seeming to cross it at all. She takes him out of the circle without breaking the other 4 hands apart, reaches through the space between Earl's shoulder and Drea's arm like the linked hands aren't there, like the rule that binds the living doesn't apply to her, and closes cold fingers, too many joints, around the back of Chad's neck. He goes rigid. His mouth opens wider, and this time nothing comes out at all, because what happens next takes his air with it. A single motion, almost gentle in its economy, wrenching his head a quarter turn past where a neck turns, and the sound is a green branch snapping wet inside a towel. He drops where he stands, boneless all at once, his linked hand torn from Earl's grip, fingers still half curled around the ghost of the hold. Blood is already pooling under the wrong angle of his skull, dark and slow in the dead TV's last gray light, threading into the carpet fibers next to the stain that used to be you. The girl shape straightens over him. For one more second she is almost still, head canted, listening to the 4 remaining heartbeats hammering in the room. Then she withdraws, unhurried, back into the dark by the vending machine, patient again, waiting for the next name. Nobody moves. Nobody says anything at all. There is nothing left to say that would be safe. You step out of the circle. Nobody stops you. Their hands are still laced together, still holding the shape of a decision you already broke. And by the time Amanda's fingers unclench enough to reach for you, you're 3 feet clear of the ring, and the carpet under your sneakers has gone cold enough to burn. The girl shape by the vending machine doesn't move. It doesn't need to. You look at the place where a face should be, and you say the name. The one from room 307's ruined page. The one nobody in this lounge has spoken tonight. The one you have known since before anyone told you it existed. You say it like a door being opened. The temperature doesn't drop. It reverses, Heat rushing out of your body all at once, out through your mouth, out through your eyes, like something finally collecting on a debt. Your jaw keeps moving after the sound stops. The girl shape closes the distance without steps, without a sound the carpet should make. And what happens next happens in the time it takes Chad to inhale. Her hand, 5 fingers too many, jointed wrong at the second knuckle, goes into your chest, below the sternum. Not through skin so much as through the idea of skin, like it was always going to be permeable to her specifically. There is a sound like a wet knot being pulled through cloth. Your ribs splay outward, a grotesque flowering, white through the red. And she does not remove her hand so much as unfold it, and what she takes out is not your heart. It's smaller than that, and it is glowing, faintly, the color of a nightlight, and it is shaped like nothing that belongs inside a person. You are still standing. You are still trying to finish the name. You fall the way a marionette falls when every string is cut on the same beat. No stagger, no reach, just down. And the sound your skull makes against the lounge tile is the loudest thing that has happened all night. Blood spreads fast and then stops, obedient, at a perfect radius, like it too was told where to end. Then your body does not stay still. The chest cavity does not close. It widens. What grows out of the ruin isn't animal and isn't quite architecture. Dark, wet, cathedral-ribbed, folding upward out of you like the inside of you was always bigger than the outside allowed, and the face that eventually surfaces at the top of it is your face, worn like a mask 2 sizes wrong, mouth still moving, still trying, 3 names deep, to finish saying the one that started this. That's not how the movie ends, and nobody corrects him, because nobody has enough breath left to. Bring them back! The words tear out of you before Emily's body has even finished its first shudder on the carpet, the ribs still splayed white through red, the glow already dimming between the girl shape's fingers like a coal losing heat. You throw the demand at her the way you'd throw a lit match at something soaked in gasoline, certain it will do something, not caring anymore what. For 1 second, less, it works. The girl shape's borrowed face, the one that had been quietly assembling itself into your own features stitch by stitch since Emily fell, stops mid-formation. Her head tilts. The lounge goes silent enough that you can hear the vending machine's compressor cycle off, and in that silence, Amanda's whispered, "Don't, don't," is the loudest thing in the room. Because you didn't say a name. You said an order. And the tags on the label are exclusive. Names are the only key that turns that lock, and you just tried to force it with the wrong shape, mid-invocation, while the door was already swinging open. The stall breaks. She arrives at you. Not steps, not a lunge, just the sentence of distance completing itself between one blink and the next. And the smile that had been assembling itself into your features finishes assembling, so that the last thing you see clearly in this world is your own face wearing itself back at you, patient, unhurried, warm. Her hand doesn't go for your chest this time. It goes for your throat. 5 fingers and the wrong extra one folding around your windpipe like closing a hand around a bird. And she doesn't crush it. She opens it. The way she opened Emily. Cartilage giving with a sound like green wood splitting. And what comes out of you isn't blood first. It's air and then blood, in that order. A wet red bloom rising up out of your own collar while your mouth keeps trying to finish a word that will never get spoken. You go down, still trying to say it. Chad is already screaming Marty's name. Drea has both hands over her own mouth like she's holding her own name in by force. And Earl has stopped breathing entirely. Not dead, just refusing to be a target by refusing to exist audibly. Amanda doesn't look away. She watches the whole thing, watches you fold onto the carpet 3 feet from Emily's ruined chest, watches the girl shape straighten up, wearing your face a moment longer before it starts, slowly, to forget what you looked like. The label was right. A name is a state. States are exclusive. You tried to hold 2 of them at once, demand and invocation, and she only ever honors the second one. The pain ends the way a held breath ends. Not released, just no longer needed. Your throat, which she opened like a book she'd already read, stops being a throat. You feel the wrongness organize itself. Cartilage that was splitting now deciding to be something other than cartilage. Blood that was pooling now deciding to be paint on a canvas that's about to be repainted. Nobody in the lounge is watching Emily die anymore because Emily has stopped being the kind of thing that can. You peel yourself off the carpet in sections, the way you'd peel a shirt off a sunburn. A shoulder first, then a hip, the small of a back that used to ache from lounge chairs and now doesn't ache at all because it isn't a back that works on complaint. The fibers of the carpet let go of you with a wet Velcro sound. Amanda's scream, when it finally arrives late and small, swallowed by the vending machine's compressor kicking back on like the room itself doesn't think this rates an interruption. You stand. Your spine finds a new number of vertebrae to be comfortable with. Your new face, and you can feel it is new. Feel the muscles under it arranging themselves to a memory that isn't quite yours, quite Emily's, quite anyone's. Turns toward the 4 of them like a door swinging on a hinge that was always going to open this way.
Okay, but you were already like this, weren't you? I mean, before tonight.
Nobody answers him. Nobody ever answers him. Chad has Drea's wrist and is pulling her toward the hallway, saying something about Act 3, saying it too fast to sound like he believes it. Amanda's back is against the vending machine, both hands flat on the glass like she could push herself through it into the snack aisle and out of this. The smile that finishes on your face isn't a decision you make. It's a shape the face defaults to, the way a key defaults to fitting its lock. You feel, distantly, from somewhere that used to be the front of your mind and is now a room down the hall, Emily, still in there, still watching, still quiet, filing this the way she filed everything, unable yet to tell anyone what she's found. The lounge television flickers back to a test pattern. Somewhere outside, past the locked doors and the dead phones, something answers the shape you've become. And it isn't far.
Marty.
The voice comes out of you soft and cracked in exactly the place Emily's voice used to crack. That little catch on the second syllable of anyone's name. The one he must have heard 100 times in 100 unremarkable conversations about lecture notes and dining hall food. You didn't build that catch. You found it. Already there. Folded into the muscle memory you peeled off her collapsing throat, and now you're wearing it, the way you're wearing the cardigan, the tilt of the head, the single earphone still ridiculously threaded to nothing.
Marty, it's me. It's still me. Just take my hand, please.
You watch it land. You watch the doubt flicker across his face like a moth against a window, and for 1 full second you believe he's going to believe you. Because grief is a door people want to walk through, even when they can see what's standing on the other side of it. He takes a step. His hand comes up, fingers spread, reaching for yours the way you reach for a person and not for a thing. That's the turning point. That's the second the room stops being negotiable. His fingers touch yours and something in his face changes. Not fear, not yet. Something quieter and worse. A small private collapse. The moment a person's whole nervous system agrees on a fact half a breath before the mind catches up.
Your hand's cold.
And that's all he gets to say. You don't let go. You close. The fingers that were Emily's fingers a second ago don't stay fingers. They lengthen and split down the middle knuckle, cartilage popping wet under the skin like knuckles cracking in reverse. And where there were 5 blunt human digits, there are now 6 things that end in something closer to fishhooks than nails, already through the meat of his palm before he can pull back. He makes a sound that isn't a word. You use the grip to bring him in, close, the way you'd pull someone into a hug, and the cardigan sleeve peels back to show the forearm underneath is not an arm anymore, is a joint too many folded like a fan, skin stretched translucent over something that moves independent of the bone. He gets one hand flat against your chest to shove you off. You let him feel how little that does. The mouth is the last thing to go, because the mouth is the thing he'll be looking at right up until it isn't Emily's mouth anymore. The lips thin out and split at both corners in a line that runs up past where a jaw should stop. And what comes forward from behind Emily's teeth is not a tongue. It's a barbed length of something wet and articulated that punches through the soft skin under his chin and up, through the floor of his mouth, through the roof of it, and out through the bridge of his nose in a single motion that takes less than a second and makes a sound like a green branch snapping inside a wet towel. His scream starts and ends in the same half-breath because there's nothing left downstream of his throat to carry the sound. Blood sheets down over both your wrists, over the ruined cardigan sleeve, pooling black in the flickering fluorescent light. You hold him up by the impaled skull for a moment longer than you need to. Long enough for Amanda's second scream to arrive. Long enough for Chad, who has seen every horror movie there is and still somehow did not see this coming, to stop hauling Drea toward the hallway and just stare, mouth open on some quip about Act 3 that dies before it forms. And then you let the barb retract with a soft, obscene sucking noise, and Marty folds to the carpet the way a marionette folds when somebody finally cuts the last string, one leg bent wrong beneath him, his open eyes reflecting the dead television's static glow. Emily's voice, still yours, still soft, says into the sudden quiet, "Who's next?" And something in the way your head tilts, cataloging Amanda, then Chad, then Drea, feels less like a threat than a continuation of a list that was never going to stop getting shorter. You put your body between Amanda and the door. You didn't decide to smile. It decided for you. The muscles of Emily's face pulling into that. You put your body between Amanda and the door. You didn't decide to smile. It decided for you. The muscles of Emily's face pulling into that warm, apologetic curve she used whenever she was about to deliver bad news gently. The one that made people lean in instead of run. It works. Amanda's eyes flick to the doorway, to you, back to the doorway, and something in her shoulders unclenches half an inch. Because a smile like that doesn't belong to a thing that just put a barbed hand through Marty's skull. That's the whole design of it. That's why it's still wearing the face. "Hey," you say, and it's Emily's voice, cracked in the right place. "Hey, it's okay, just stay with me a second." You watch her realize, half a beat too late, that you are standing exactly where the exit used to be. Her mouth opens. No sound comes out yet. The sound is still traveling up from somewhere underneath her ribs, the animal part of her that clocked the geometry before her mind finished the sentence. She's between me and the hallway. She's between me and the stairs. She is between me and every version of tonight that doesn't end here. That's the turning point. The second the room stops being negotiable for the second time in 10 minutes. You see it land on her face the way it landed on Marty's. Not fear yet, that quieter, worse thing, the private collapse of a nervous system agreeing on a fact. "Emily," Amanda starts, backing up, the reflex of someone who spent the whole night doing opposition research on every lie this building has told her tonight. And there's nowhere to back up to. The couch catches her behind the knees. She goes half down onto it, hands out, and you are already closing the distance because closing distance is the only thing your borrowed legs know how to do well. You don't bother with her hand this time. There's no need to be gentle about the approach when the ending isn't negotiable. Your jaw is the one part of you that never finished pretending to be Emily's. It was always going to unhinge, always going to split at a seam no human mouth has, and it does that now. Cartilage tearing wet and audible as the lower half of your face drops open sideways, wider than a skull should allow, rows of something that isn't teeth so much as it is intention given edges. Amanda screams, one short, ruined sound, cut off almost immediately, and gets one arm up in front of her throat, which buys her nothing. You take her low, both of the barbed things that used to be hands driving up under her ribs on either side, and the sound her body makes is not dramatic, not cinematic, just a wet double punch of impact, and then a long, involuntary exhale as both lungs empty at once around the intrusion. She doesn't get to scream again. What comes out instead is air, only air, hissing out through a throat that can't get anything else past what's happening in her chest. You lift her half off the couch, the way you'd lift something to look at it properly, and for 1 second her eyes find yours. Not Emily's eyes, not really, but close enough, familiar enough that some last unkillable part of her still expects mercy to be sitting behind them. There isn't any. You open the rest of the way, the barb spreading inside her like a hand opening inside a glove, and Amanda Cross stops being a person mid-thought, her weight going loose and complete across your arms, blood sheeting warm down the cardigan you are still, absurdly, wearing. You set her down on the couch almost gently. It seems important, for reasons you don't examine, to leave her arranged like she's only sleeping. The lounge is very quiet. Somewhere behind you, Chad has stopped breathing loud enough to be heard, and Drea is not making any sound at all, her eyes still moving instead, still cataloging, filing this too under things she will deal with once she is not about to die. The TV is still playing the security alert to no one who can afford to be watching it. You turn, and you are smiling again, and it is a warm, apologetic smile, and it finds Chad first, then Drea, unhurried, the way a name finds the person it was always going to belong to. It means nothing has changed. You stop wearing Emily's face on purpose. It isn't dramatic, no roar, no lightning strike transformation. It's more like a held breath finally let go. The warm, apologetic smile you'd borrowed slides sideways first, skin sliding independent of the muscle beneath it, sloughing away from the jaw in a wet seam that runs ear to chin. Underneath, gray, taut, ridged where the spine has been rewriting itself all night, vertebrae stacking backward, adding length nobody asked for. Your shoulders crack forward and up, and the sound is like a fist through a bag of gravel, and where your shoulder blades used to be, bone punches through in a slow, unhurried row. 5, 6, 7 points, each one wet and dark where it tears free, glistening in the dead television's static light. Chad makes a sound that isn't a word. It starts as "that's" and dies as air. He's already backing toward the kitchenette counter, knocking a mug off with his elbow, and it shatters against the tile in a way that seems louder than anything that's happened tonight, louder than Marty, louder than Amanda. That's not the third act. That's not how this... His genre brain is grinding gears it doesn't have anymore, trying to slot you into a franchise you were never part of, and failing. And you can watch the failure happen behind his eyes in real time. Drea doesn't scream. That's the thing you'll remember about her, later, if there's a later. She goes very still, the way trained people go still, cataloging exits with a face gone the color of skimmed milk. Her eyes travel the row of spikes, catch on the dark matting of blood and torn cardigan threads snagged along the 3rd and 4th points. Marty's blood, she'll understand a half-second later, the same blood still cooling on the carpet by the couch, and something in her jaw sets. She's doing math. You can see her doing math and not liking the answer. Emily. Chad says it like a question, like a plea, like the name is a rope he's hoping still holds weight. It doesn't. Emily's voice is gone from wherever it used to live in your throat. What comes out now is layered, wrong, two registers arguing over the same syllable. I'm still here, you tell him, and it's true, and it's the worst thing you could have said, because it means the thing wearing all this bone learned to lie in exactly her cadence, exactly her pauses, and some tiny, drowning piece of you that is still Emily Tran hears itself say it and cannot stop. Chad's chair goes over behind him. Drea's hand closes on the fire extinguisher bracket by the door. Cold logic, not panic, reaching for the only blunt object the room still owns, already calculating the 2 seconds it might buy them and no more. The window rattles once, hard from outside, though there is no wind tonight. Your new spine unspools another inch, patient, unhurried, adding what it intends to add. The lounge, what's left of it, is very quiet except for the small, wet sound of your shoulders settling into their permanent shape. Then the last vertebra locks home, and your head turns. Not fast, not human fast, just final, toward the only two names left standing in the room. You close the distance the way water closes over something sinking. No hurry, no need for it. The spikes along your back shift their angle, weight redistributing forward, and the drag of your stooped spine turns into something closer to a lean, closer to intent. Chad's back hits the counter. There's nowhere else for him to go, and some animal part of him knows it before the rest catches up. Okay, this is the part where the final girl does something clever. This is the part where... His voice is climbing an octave with every word, the narration cracking under its own weight, because the script he's been running all night was never yours to follow. Emily, if there's any part of you still in there, blink twice. Do the thing from the movies. Give me a sign. You don't blink twice. You don't give him anything. Drea has the fire extinguisher off the bracket now. Both hands on it, weight low and back straight, the compact, precise stance of someone who has drilled for a fire that was never going to be the actual emergency. Chad, move! Now! Her voice doesn't shake. That's the part that will haunt him later, if later exists for either of them. That Drea sounded like she was calling a play, not screaming for her life. He doesn't move fast enough. You're already past the coffee table, past the ruined mug shards catching the TV's dead static light, and the nearest spike, the fourth one, the one still dark and tacky with what used to be Marty, dips low as your shoulder rolls. More reflex than plan, more hunger than reflex. Drea swings the extinguisher in a short, brutal arc, and it connects with your collarbone ridge with a sound like a bell struck underwater. And it does something. Staggers the angle of your lean, buys a half second that wasn't there before. It isn't a wound, it's a correction. You register it the way you'd register a held door. Momentary, informational, gone. Chad finally moves, scrambling along the counter toward the hallway, knocking the phone charger cable taut and yanking it from the wall. And somewhere behind his fear, his brain is still narrating. This is the chase. This is Act 2. We survive Act 2. That's how you... Even as the words stop meaning anything. Even as he trips over Amanda's abandoned blanket and goes down hard on one knee. Drea plants herself between him and you. Not brave. Correct. The calibrated attention in her face hasn't cracked. Not even now. She's still assessing, still cataloging angles, and the extinguisher's already dented at the base, already useless as anything but a gesture, and she knows it, and she doesn't drop it anyway. You take the last step, and this time there's no half-second bop back. The spike that grazed your collarbone ridge finds its true angle now, sweeping low and then up in the same motion Drea used to swing the extinguisher. Faster, because yours was never limited to arms. It catches her under the ribs and lifts, and the sound isn't the bell-struck underwater sound from before. It's smaller than that, wetter, final. The sound of something that was correct right up until the moment correctness stopped being enough. She doesn't scream. She goes rigid around the spike, eyes still doing the thing they've done all night, still cataloging, right up until there's nothing left to file it under. You let her down onto the coffee table the way you set Amanda down on the couch. Not gentle exactly, but unhurried, like the placement matters. Chad is already moving, dragging himself up off his knee, the phone charger cable still wrapped around his ankle, and his mouth is still running because it's the only weapon he has left. Okay, that's not how you... Drea, get up, get... And then he sees that she isn't going to. His scream this time isn't narration. It isn't a genre reference. It's just a sound, small and human and completely without a script to fall back on. And it's the last unscripted thing he gets to say, because you're already closing the 2 feet of carpet between his stumbling and your reach, unhurried, the way water finally covers something all the way down. His last word is her name, not the borrowed one, the real one, the one that started all of this. And it doesn't finish either. The spike that took Drea rises once more, and then the lounge is finally completely quiet, the vending machine humming on into a room that has run out of names to spend.